Hey guys, welcome to the 31st episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you aren't sure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And to be honest, I'm very intimidated today because the guest I have with me is quite big. His name is Eugene. Eugene, thanks so much for taking the time to join this podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, JJ. I don't agree with you that I'm quite big. In fact, I'm quite small. So I'm not sure what you mean.
Hey, a little context of Eugene, right? He is the creative lead and I would say founder of High Sparks, and it's a presentation and storytelling agency. So I'm sure every one of us, right, we have sat in that boring ass presentation, wishing that we could get out of there as soon as possible, right? Eugene works at this level, at a very professional level in this realm, in a sense whereby personally for myself, I've sat in presentations which are worth like millions of dollars, and at that kind of presentations, you really want to make sure that your presentation skills is on point, that you're saying the correct stuff, that the visual is correct, because we have that feeling, or we know that feeling of what makes a good presentation, and Eugene makes that happen at a big scale level. So he has a very big list of clients. I even took the time to write it down. Some of his clients include Visa, Panasonic, Nike, Mastercard, Dentsu, and Oracle. And recently, I know he has been interested in the blockchain industry as well. So I know that he has been helping blockchain startups raise ICOs as well. So in terms of conveying the startup's message in a very succinct, clear, simple manner, right? It's sometimes what you would say technical people require. And I know Eugene is an expert at making complicated messages simple and easily understandable for his clients for the audience intended. Other things, Eugene is also a founder of Motion Source as well, and is also a video production agency, if I'm not wrong, involved in helping you be clear with your messages as well. He's also an adjunct lecturer in entrepreneurship at the Ngee Polytechnic, and I think in terms of the reasons why I think this podcast will be helpful is to have a Singaporean context when it comes to entrepreneurship, because Eugene here, he has been listed in the Forbes 30 under 30 in their media and advertising category, if I'm not wrong. And I think there's really a lot to learn in this conversation from. By all standards, right, he's only a few years older than me, but he has accomplished so much. So I'm just interested to find out in terms of his thought process of what it means to be an entrepreneur in Singapore. And most importantly, have that Singaporean context, because sometimes I feel that a lot of entrepreneurship advice is lost in the Western space. So I think that Eugene is able to give a very local context onto it. So Eugene, thanks so much for taking the time. For those listeners that, sorry if I may add on, right? Eugene is a master at content marketing, right? I'll just list down like I think dozens, up to 60 pieces of content he has wrote about presentation or what makes a killer presentation. So if there's one thing I can say that this podcast won't be talking about is presentations, because there's so much content that he already has on his side as well. So Eugene, for starting questions, right? I mean, what does it take to be in the Forbes 30 under 30? I know this is like a big question, but just to give a starting note.
Yeah, again, JJ, I just feel like you may have oversold me. That's one thing. Second thing is I do consider it a big honor for Kai Sing, my partner, and myself, because we have a lot of friends who were initially in the Forbes 30 under 30 Asia list for the past many years that they've been running in. I've always looked at them with a lot of respect, and these are people that I look up to, and I learned a lot from them along the way. Honestly, I'm not going to say that it takes very little or that it takes very much, because in this case, I feel that it is sort of something like a pageant, I feel, right? They are looking for certain people who check certain lists. They're looking for people with a story, and we were lucky enough, I think, just to have our story noticed. And we had a few friends who were initially alumni who decided to nominate us, and they were very kind, and I'm sure they wrote a lot of very kind things, and I don't see it as the be all end all. Like, it's not like when you're on the list then you've made it in life or anything. Honestly, I just think it's the beginning. It's some validation for some of the sacrifices we've made, but I think that's about that.
Let's say for university students or tertiary students out there, right, I know there's a big jump, like 4 years and 5 years into achieving this recognition, which is definitely very, very high as well, right? Can I ask, I feel that, let's say all this kind of recognitions, right, at the end of the day, it's definitely a good milestone to have. But I'm just curious in terms of your motivations in terms of being an entrepreneur, because sometimes some people might be motivated towards all these kind of awards, but others might find other reasons. So in that general sense, right, what kind of motivations drive you as an entrepreneur in terms of this long journey? Because sometimes motivation
Sure.
sources might be not sustainable in a sense. So what is the sustainable motivation that you have?
Okay, that's quite an interesting question. I think it's something that I've gotten before when I've spoken on some head panels, and there were young people who were asking, "Oh, so what's your motivation for getting into this, etc." I would say at the start, I mean, if you read the story somewhere online, we sort of stumbled into it. We didn't really feel like it was a proper career path at first, but it was just something that was fun for us. And I feel that's the most innocent way that these things start, especially when you're a young person. And hopefully that's the best way that it begins, because then you don't get jaded by all the things that you might hear about what running a business is like, because it's not always fun in games. That's one thing. It's difficult, especially at the beginning, and you won't always immediately see success. So that's one. Second thing is, I think what continues to motivate us is the kind of clients that we get to work with. Again, we get to meet a lot of very intelligent people that are doing really incredible things, and that gives us like a fly on the wall view as to what's coming next, what the future is like, as well as opens up our own horizons. Because the thing is, I do have a lot of amazing friends, but very few of them are C-level executives, or very few of them have had that level of experience that we see with our clients. At the same time, of course, being an entrepreneur sometimes is a choice, right? You not say that you can't work for somebody else. I can't imagine myself working for someone else. It's just that there are a lot of perks that come with it. For example, in our office, we have like a karaoke machine that I tell a lot of people about, or we have like a no dress code kind of thing. Of course, you wear jeans and a t-shirt or something, but or you get to go to work at 10 a.m. You know, there are a lot of things that we take for granted when we are working, or when we're not doing this. So, you know, I feel, let's say we go all the way to the core of that question, which is what drives us every day, right? I think it's to be better than who we are the day before, or the month before, or the year before, and to, of course, help people. And I think that's the best kind of reason to be in it.
When it comes to helping people, right, one topic that I really want to, let's say, dive a little deeper on, right? I've been in this agency space, like I've just started, it's been less than a year since I graduated from university, right? I'm just very curious on your side, because you have so many years of experience in working with your clients, right? Because you have worked from startups to all these kind of big brands, right? Could you just paint us a picture of, let's say, the difficulties that you had early on from the first clients you have, and like how do you be the best versions of yourself to your clients, just in a general sense? Because that's one trouble that I'm facing. Like, how can I constantly make sure that I'm doing the best for my clients?
Okay, I think that's a really good question, and very relevant towards younger people. As you know, my partner Kai Sing and I started out when we were poly graduates. That means we were about 19, 20 years old. That was back all the way in the 2013-ish, right? In April, I recall. One of the biggest challenges, of course, up front was it was very difficult to get people to trust us. Again, maybe you can't see me in the camera clearly. I don't look that old, which is an Asian curse kind of thing, right? It's good to stay young, but especially in the space like we're in, when we're doing consulting work and we're talking to people that are 2 to 3 times older than us, there is a big issue if they don't see you as that kind of authority, if they don't trust your opinion, and they don't want to give you the time of the day. So we've had early prospects or almost clients that decided that we weren't for them, simply because he's saying something like, "You're my son's age. What are you going to tell me that's going to be so valuable for me, that's going to change the way that I talk about my business, or how I run my business?" And that wasn't always something that we had the confidence of saying we could do really well at the start. But I'm thankful that along the way, people kind of gave us a chance, and we get to where we're at now. So that's one thing. I think the second challenge, of course, is it's just challenging as a Singaporean, a young Singaporean, to take on the path so early, right? We have a lot of friends who started businesses after university, but I think before university, even fewer. The reason for that is, as you know, I mean, in our society, people think that if you don't have a degree, you're not safe, you can't get a job, or you can get a job, but it won't pay pretty well. I would say that is still the stigma, and that is not entirely untrue, depending on what's the industry that you choose to commit yourself to and the type of occupation. However, that's going to put a damper on whether people pursue entrepreneurship young. There were a lot of hurdles. Aside from that fact, we also, of course, had our parents, the speak to, right? And they were saying, no lah, you better study, mommy saved a lot of money for you. Please just go ahead with it, and just, you want to do this on the side or something. And my father would say, before I die, I'd like to have a degree that I can mount on my wall or something like that. And again, you look back and I look back and I see that my parents, of course, they care a lot about me, and they want to make sure that I'm taken care of even when they're not around. So I don't blame them for it. It's just that these will be things that you have to deal with. At the same time, you'll have to deal with the fact that all your friends are going to go to university, or they're going to just move ahead in their own pathways, right? And you have to be comfortable that, and knowing that, you've chosen something else. And are you okay with that doesn't really work out for you in the end?
So on that note, right, in terms of overcoming these challenges, right, all the way to right now of you being a very seasoned person working with clients, right, how do you be the best versions for yourself to help them? Like how can you what's your kind of process, or just in a very big perspective of allowing yourself to be in the best position to help clients?
Okay, that's an interesting question as well. I think, so I'm just going to repeat it one time, just so I also can sort of think about it. How do I become the best version of myself to serve clients, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd say first thing is you need to be able to deliver. What I mean by that is, if you're promising a certain outcome to your client, how confident are you of delivering that? And if you're not, of course, you wouldn't be able to promise it, or you wouldn't be able to charge a certain fee, because you simply can't deliver it. So I think the first thing is, of course, learning the important skills that they may or may not teach you in school. Do your own learning, do your own practice, test it out on your own to make sure you're at least of that level that you can deliver on that outcome, or you tried it a few times beforehand. That way, definitely whoever uses you, they know you can add real value, that you actually have done it, rather than you are just saying it, right? I feel like a lot of young people might have a glamorized impression of what maybe making a sale is like. Maybe running a business is like. They feel like it's pulling a lot of fluff out of your brain and just kind of hoping that someone buys into that idea. But then again, it's not always the case. So that's one. Second thing is, again, I agree with you that the challenges that I just recited previously, there were ways that we did try to overcome that with. In my particular case, again, what you see is what you get, right? Sometimes what you perceive on the surface is what you will experience at the end. For example, let's say if the client is looking for someone older, they're looking for someone who looks more professional, more polished, right? And he speaks to me and I'm in like a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and my face looks like I just came out of secondary school. Of course, he's not going to anticipate a good experience. So in my case, I had to dress a bit older. I'm wearing a t-shirt now, but I have a suit in my closet. I have these pair of glasses that don't even have degree. I'm just wearing them just because it makes me look a bit older, but I don't need the glasses actually. So things like that. Again, kind of tapering your image so that you fit towards the clients that you're trying to serve, right? A lot of, I think, like I say, young people, they think like, oh yeah, you go and start a startup or you start a small business and you dress how you want, you're the boss, you do whatever the hell you want. But the thing is, your bosses are your clients. And in our case, we have many, many bosses. Yeah.
In your experience of having worked with so many clients, it seems that you have to put up the front that you are like much older than you seem, or it really depends on clients. Because let's say like recently, because I've been trying to find out more about HiSpark, I know that you guys have been involved in like blockchain startup projects as well, right? So is it right for me to say that you dress accordingly to the client, like as superficial as that may sound?
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. I wouldn't say that we try to put on the front, right? I feel like Kai-Sing and I try to be as authentic as we can. I mean, you speak to me, I wouldn't pretend that I know something that I don't. We're very clear with clients that we don't pretend to be an expert in whatever they're doing, but we are experts in helping them discover the best way to say or to explain what they are doing. Right, we can understand it if they explain it to us because they are the experts, and then we kind of act as a sounding board to them in that aspect. Do we dress according to the client? Now and then. Again, if you come in too dressed up and you're meeting someone who's like a tauke kind of thing. And of course, the mismatch may not be the best fit, right? So depending on the client, yes, we do dress up and dress down. Sometimes it just makes them feel more comfortable. And what's most important is how the client feels in this case.
Could you tell me, like, let's say, of all your years as being in this field, right? Is there an interesting story from your in terms of client interaction that you feel that there are lessons to be learned from? Because right now, like some difficulty I have, right, because I'm very early on in this agency space, right? Like when it comes to communicating with clients, being on the same page, I find myself difficult at times because like we are not aligned. But is there any like just general tips that you could give to me in a sense as a young person, right, in this agency world, so just struggling or at least just starting out in journey of working with clients in general? Is there any kind of client management tips that you would give?
What problems are you trying to solve? I mean, you don't have to be explicit lah, so nobody knows, right? But just in general.
So let's say when it comes to aligning on the same page, let's say for instance, like for your agency, how do you guys align yourself with the expectations of the clients? In my line of work, it's performance marketing, right? Sometimes the numbers speak for itself. So when sometimes we aren't reaching numbers, right? Sometimes things can get a little too complicated and like there are messages flying back and forth. In terms of client comms, right? Is there a way that you approach it to make it as clean and systematic for you?
Okay, that's interesting. Client communications. Again, I'll try to contextualize it because in our case and your case, it's quite different. Obviously, in your case, it's great because you can produce the numbers as and when for measurable results. In our case, it's quite subjective at times because clients have a certain way they want to say something, right? And whether they feel it's good or not, sometimes it's all within their own choice to make that decision. So I'm going to tell you maybe an anecdote, then you can see if that sort of relates to you, if that's fine. From our perspective, I think there were instances where the client wanted something, right? And the worst cases are when the client has 5 other people in the room also wanting their version of what they feel is the best. And those are the kinds of situation where we get a lot of issues because there's too many chefs that are trying to cook a single pot of broth or soup, right? And then they have their own ingredients, they have their own ideals of what it needs to be. So sometimes we're playing facilitator to try to get them aligned on what they want because they sometimes don't know. So I think that's something you're going to have to be comfortable with, that sometimes people don't know what they want and you need to come in, step in as the agency or the authority. They hired you for a reason. If they're hiring you, they can have 2 different sort of mindsets. One mindset is, okay, I'm hiring you, get a job done. Like, do it for me. And, I know what I want. I'm going to tell it to you, go and do it. Those are the worst kind of jobs to do, honestly. Whereas there are other clients that come in and say, you're the expert. You tell me what I need to do. Let's do it together, right? And of course, those are the best. The truth is there's no... The most difficult thing to do is to manage clients and to deal with humans. That's the worst part of the job, right? Creating the work fulfilling, I'm sure in your case also media buying and such, no-brainer, right? It comes to you like clockwork naturally. So let's say when we're dealing with people, I think I come with it from a couple of approaches. One thing is we need to accept that they might not always be happy. And when they are unhappy, they may not always be in the wrong or they may not always be in the fault, right? Sometimes we don't agree with them. It may not mean that their views are wrong, but we need to understand why the views are wrong, right? Second thing is, again, it's a bit of a conversational kung fu, right? Depending how you speak to them, you could potentially get them to accept your ideas if you are savvy about it, right? For example, let's say that there was this technique that I learned from watching Masterclass. It's not my technique. It's something that I learned from Masterclass. So I just want to make that really, really clear. Okay. I was watching this guy called Chris Voss. He's very famous for being an ex-FBI negotiator. I think you might have seen that before, right? And he talks something about mirroring. And I found that technique to be really, really helpful. Again, whenever you're approaching a problem, you're trying to convince someone to say yes to what you want, right? And when you're speaking to your agency clients and our agency clients, the truth is they don't care about what you want or what you think might be right. They care about whether that idea aligns to their worldview and what they feel about this, right? So the best chance that you have of getting buy-in is to convince them that their views and your views are the same views. It's the same animal, right? It's the same core idea, just that maybe it's represented in a different form right now. And once you can get to that alignment, and I know it kind of sounds like we're pandering to the client. Again, we're not really doing that. We're just explaining to him that him or her, that they are thinking the same thing. They just don't know it yet. So I think that is one of the best ways to approach it, or to try approaching it from the start, so that you don't piss the client off. You still get what you need to get done, and you have a good working relationship.
I think that's very interesting. On that note, right? Let's say on let's say improving yourself in general as like the founder of this agency, right? When it comes to taking master classes, right? As a CEO of this company, right? How are you improving yourself?
Okay, so I mean, before our call, I'm on a 3-day, full-day virtual course or bootcamp of sorts. It's run by these guys, Melvin and Josiah, and they're teaching about marketing, teaching about messaging. Again, it's not something that we haven't heard before, but I think they go really deep into it, so we learn a few things. Again, the question about when you should think of improving yourself and how much time you should allocate to it is as much time as you can, right? The thing is, the only reason that we gotten to a certain point was because when I was much younger, when Kai was much younger, we would read really voraciously. We would attend classes, we would meet people, and through that, you kind of expand your horizon. The thing is, if you don't know what you don't know, and you don't learn, and you don't explore whatever's out there and continuously try to be the best version of yourself, attaining all the important skills it takes to run a business, then it's very hard for you to improve. It's very hard for you to get to that next level. And I might even wager it might be very hard for you to sustain whatever you have right now. Simple things like, and I mean, I'm an advocate for soft skills, of course, right? Although I do learn a lot of hard skills like developing websites and all that. But definitely negotiation is an important skill. Sales is an important skill. Understanding the fundamentals of marketing, how to use words to convince people to buy into your ideas. I think those are like the core basic things that if you want to run your own company, you need to have, right? Because the truth is, you can be a really good developer. You can make things work. But if you can't sell these ideas to anybody, then it's going to be tough for you. Yeah.
When it comes to all these kind of workshops, bootcamp, right? I'm guessing that these workshops are like with like-minded people as well, people who have like substantial business on their own, right? Like how do you go about finding out about these courses or like boot camps?
Again, they're not always in your face, right? Again, some of it is at the moment, what do you think you're lacking? So let's say if we put it in a context where everyone can sort of benefit from it. Now, let's say you just graduated from school, right? And you have a vision of where you want to be. I'm not going to say 5-10 years. Sometimes we don't even think that far. Just think about someone that you've met and someone that you think, wow, I would really love to be doing what this person is doing. I think this person's great and I admire where they're at in their career and in their professional lives. Think about where you're at now versus where they're at, and think about what's the fastest way for you to get there. What are the things you need to learn? What are the experiences you need to have? And can you very quickly select and be very choosy with the things that you choose to engage yourself in to get there as quickly as you can? And I think that's the way that you should kind of rework and prioritize the things that you want to learn, right? Because if you kind of just go into it, you go to Udemy or you go to like Masterclass and you're seeing how Christina Aguilera sings songs, you're going to spend time on those things. And honestly, that course isn't very good, but you're going to spend time on those things and then it may not get you really much closer to where you want to be. So in my case or in our case, sometimes how we do it is we see, okay, the business is going in this particular state right now. And what skills or what gaps have we identified that we need to have so that we can take it to another level, right? And once we figure that out, then of course we are consistently on the lookout for it. And if we happen to find it ourselves, great. But largely, it's best if someone, like one of our business associates, have gone for it, they enjoyed it, they think it's good, it's relevant for us, they tell us, and then of course we trust them and we go for it and give it a try also.
I mean, at your stage, right, you have really accomplished so much already, right? But in terms of, let's say, going to the next level, right, I know, like, from your perspective, like, I mean, having had this bootcamp, right, I know in very vague sense, right, because you're already such a high level, like, where is the next level for you in that sense?
I really don't think that I'm at a high
Okay,
level. I have a
but
feeling you set the level too low.
Okay, but yeah, that's true. That's true as well, and that's like, let's say, one of the troubles that I face as well. Let's say of having too low expectations and like easily exceeding them, and like, okay, technically it's really not much, but for yourself, definitely you have achieved that certain standard already. But in terms of where do you want to go next, where are you going next? In terms of like, yeah, in terms of high spark and motion source of
Okay,
business
well,
in general.
I mean, sure. So I think happy to share where we're hoping to take it, right? So I think, let's say for High Spark specifically, Kai Sing and I are quite clear that one, we need to make the business more sustainable, right? We want to pay everyone more in our team. We want to make sure that we develop the processes that keeps it going, especially in difficult times like now, like COVID, right? We have to consistently evolve, and until we get it to that state where it can function without Kai Sing and me, and still maintain a really good margin and still maintain something that we can continue to run the business without us with, then I won't think that we're there yet. So I think that's our first step. Second thing is with Motion Source particularly, which is a new venture. Again, dealing with video animation and production. So the clientele is quite similar, which is why I thought it would be a good venture in that area. And I have a good friend who wanted to start this anyway. So I do see that in the future, when we do sort of see more overlap in that, we could put it together as one offering. So that's one thing. How I do see the most immediate ways we can improve, of course, is our marketing can always be better. Again, going B2B and dealing with corporations is not the easiest thing because it's very hard to get in front of them. And anyone that's in the B2B space will probably find that a bit of a challenge. So for us, we're trying to create more processes on how we can generate more leads, how we can re-engage old clients. And all these things are just low-hanging fruits for us to try to see how we can also take the business to a point where it can scale a little bit, right? So we're doing education, we're doing training, and we want to take this on and record it and put it online. So just a small shout out that we're also going to be putting a digital course together by the end of April on storytelling. It's basically one of the courses that we used to conduct live for people in Singapore, in our country, and with some of our clients. They usually pay thousands of dollars and they arrange the runs. But now because they can't be here in person, and we can't be there in person either, we're trying out a digital format, and we're going to see how that works.
On this note, digital format, like, is it like more of a independent, like on a separate learning platform whereby people can, is it more of a B2C or B2B product that you're intending to develop?
I would say if we really had to classify it, it might be B2B2C, right? So forget the semantics. Essentially, some ex-clients might buy it for their teams, right? So maybe an organization could buy like a package, and then each of them has one seat, and then they can come in, they can get some time in our community to discuss. They could get some time with a consultant, or it could just be an individual like you and me, right? We're stuck at home and we want to improve our skills and our abilities. Maybe we invest a bit of money into it, and of course, we're hoping that everyone that comes in will be better off. Like, they come in, they learn the frameworks that we use, that we teach to these very high-level individuals who need to tell very powerful stories, and they take it, they run with it, and hopefully their professional lives improve. They rise up in their careers and they do well for themselves.
Okay, looking forward to this launch. I'll be interested in it. On this note, right, I another topic that I really wanted to discuss with you, like, there's a saying that if you want to go far, you need to go together, right? So obviously for yourself, you have managed to work with business partners like Kai Sing and a partner as well at Motion Source, right? In terms of like the general things that you could share in terms of finding a business partner, right? Are there any things that, or mistakes that you wish you hadn't made before in terms of, let's say, finding a business partner? Because I think it's very tricky when there's money involved, friendships and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, it is. I have to admit, it is one of the trickiest things ever. Reason for that is because sometimes when you pick a business partner, it's almost like picking someone for marriage, right? It's a long-term commitment. It's not a short-term. And you're right, there is money involved. There is something deeper, deeper than something that goes more deep than a personal level that you need to be very ready to deal with at any point in time. I want to say that I've been very lucky, honestly, very lucky and blessed, because my partner Kai Sing and my partner at Motion Source, Jaden, they are both similar but also very different. But their similarities are the things that basically make them really good partners, right? So I think I'm going to come at it from a perspective of I guess the people that usually listen to your podcast, right? And even people who don't may also benefit from it. Young people tend to want to work with somebody else because they feel there's a bit of comfort, right? It feels much safer to go into something with like 4 or 5 people. Like, you know how you do projects in your university? You have a few people and then you just band together and you feel like you can face the world together, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That works in school. But in the real world, it hardly ever works out because, again, you have too many hits, too many people who want to make decisions. And the worst thing is when you have skill sets that all overlap and there's no value add between each of you. Or the worst is when there's no team dynamics, right? So the first thing I would look for, let's say if I'm fresh out of school, just from that perspective or in general, right, is I would look for, I guess, someone who has skills that I don't. That when we put that together, and we're both hardworking, of course, and there will be at least one person who's driving it, right? Meaning there'll be one person who has this fire, this endless energy, and they really want to get something done, but both have to have that alignment in terms of how ambitious they are, how big they want it to be, how much time they're willing to commit, because it is a commitment. If you leave halfway, you're going to affect somebody else, the other person. And if you decide to go really fast and the other person's not in it, you're going to feel like not very good. So I think you need to find someone who's aligned on a few of those basic values and principles, right? And you need to identify what your values are for the matter, right? Like, again, values on ethics, values on hard work, what's your work ethic like, values on family, because all these things are going to come out when you least expect it. So that's the first one. You find someone who's aligned to your values. Second thing is you need to find someone with complementary skills. What complementary means is, example, let's say, let's say I'm good at soft skills, right? And I obviously can't code, I can't do programming, I can't code software. So naturally, I need someone else to be able to do that, right? And if this guy is also good at like soft skills and everything, I mean, he can start a business on his own, right? Again, we're trying to find a good fit in terms of people who can help each other succeed, right? Because it needs to be a win-win. Otherwise, it's not going to be a partnership. It's just going to be someone taking advantage of someone else, right? So my advice is, another thing is not to have too many people, for sure. If you really, really can help it, not anything more than 2 or 3 people at the beginning, like to start a business together would be the best. If you really want to have a business partner, again, you don't necessarily have to have one, because I've met a lot of really smart people who start businesses on their own and they succeed. Also, nothing wrong with that. It's really a choice, right? Again, I don't want to espouse any specific opinion that you must have people. If not, you must have like an extra person with you running the business. If not, you can't succeed. I've seen a lot of solopreneurs do well. People who do like coaching, and they're just one person, but they're making a lot more money than we are. And I've seen people with really, really big teams who aren't really making a good profit either. And of course, people like ourselves, where we have a decent sized team, and we're sort of in the middle of everything. But like I said, I think it's about that, right? Selecting the right person first. Preferably, you can test out the person a little bit, right? Like try a small little project with them. Put them in a difficult situation, see how they react. Also observe how you react and think about whether you're the best fit for each other. Because I think that's one of the most important things. If you don't align, you are not going to be complementary to each other to run the business successfully, and you're not a fit, then I think better don't start. Yeah, because it'll be very painful when you want to rip it apart after that.
When it comes to this process of aligning, right, like finding out each other's work ethic, values, I mean, it definitely takes time. I'm not sure if it's like a too personal questions to ask you, because you have started these 2 companies with business partners as well. Like, what was this period like? Is there like a general time duration that you guys have worked with each other before? Like, what is the process when it comes to aligning yourself?
The interesting story, I mean, there's a reason why we see a lot of young people start out with their classmates, right? Because you would have already worked with your classmates for a year, a couple of years. In Kai Xing's case, we've been working together for a couple of years in school, right? So because of that, I sort of know her, she sort of knows me, she knows how I work, I know how she works, and we know each other's friends, so we sort of understand each other to a certain level that we know, well, we probably could collaborate with each other. And I mean, with that foundation built, then it became an easier decision to make for her. For Jayden, I've actually known him since poly as well, but we never really talked much. It's just that we got to try out a few different things. I got to see the way he works because he was in a similar office. So again, I did try to feel out all these things, try to tease out all these things. And both of them are quite into their religion, which is Buddhism. So they're quite spiritual, they align to the precepts, they don't like do bad things and all that. So I feel like at least you know that they're governed by something that's more than just you, right? You can't tell someone what to do. You can, but they might not listen to you. But they'll listen to themselves and they'll listen to what they believe in. And I think like if you can isolate what those beliefs are, it's much safer for you, at least, that you don't get kind of screwed over by someone who's a bit deceptive, yeah?
Can I ask for yourself, like, do you have any like battle scars in terms of like business partners, like excluding Kai-Sing and Jaden? Like, did you have any sour experience when it comes to business finding business partners, or mostly?
I wouldn't say it's sour. So the thing is, when we were starting High Spark in the beginning, it wasn't called High Spark, right? It was called Slight Comet. When we started our school fresh, and we had this other friend. I won't say his name on the podcast, but he was a really good friend of mine. He is still a good friend of mine, and we were all really close back in poly. And I think because, like I said, we got into that whole rah-rah mood. We want everyone to collaborate. You want everyone to succeed together, and we kind of made a bad suggestion that we should all work on this together. And we not really midway, like maybe 3 months in, we sort of found that there was a bit of misalignment in the way that we were working. The skills were not complementary. We couldn't really. I feel we couldn't take it too far together, and we had to tell him that it wasn't a fit lah. And it was very, very painful because he at the time he didn't. It didn't really look good. Like it looked like me and Kai-Sing were trying to kick him out. And again, it wasn't really that wrong from that description either. It did feel like that to me as well a bit. But we knew that it wouldn't work out in the end. So if you had to kill it, you had to kill it early, right? But we, of course, still value him as a friend, and we tried to make sure that he got all that he could get. And we tried to repair the relationship. And I'm happy to say that even till now, we're still good friends. And he says that looking back, he was so happy that we made that decision together because he found out exactly what he liked. And it was so different from what he thought that he liked at the time. Yeah. He was kind of just... He latched on to it because it's just something that you were already in anyway, and it seemed easy. But he did discover his other passions, and sometimes I think we need to look at it this way, that it's not always a wrong move, and then you kind of get screwed over and it's wrong. But sometimes one door closes, another opens, and you find exactly where you need to be.
Okay, well, that sounds quite. This sounds quite painful as well. On that note, right? Changing gears a little bit, right? Can I just ask, like, on a day-to-day, as like the main operator of this machine, right? What do you generally do? What do you occupy yourself with on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, you want to talk currently or pre-COVID?
Let's say currently and pre-COVID. Like, actually, I was about to segue more into the business situation now these days, because I know that like I have many friends in the SME industry, right? They have been hit quite badly, particularly in the video production agency. Like clients, they can't even make videos anymore. But on your side, how's the situation like?
Okay, so I'll allude to a couple of things. One is, let's talk about the situation, but then we'll talk about what we do day to day. Okay, so situation-wise, I won't lie that we've been affected, right? I mean, everyone has been affected in some way. We have had friends also who have had to lay off staff, really make really painful decisions. For both our companies, we haven't had to do anything like that yet. And I say yet because you never really know in these kind of crazy times, right? We've made it very clear to everyone. And I think our contingency for that, just leading up to it, was to let everyone know of what we're trying to do, right? The strategies we're trying to take. At the same time, we're going to let everyone know that we're doing our best, that no one gets a pay cut, but don't expect a pay raise also. And that we have them at the top of our priorities. Like if I had to take a pay cut, Kai-Sing had to take a pay cut just so we can keep everybody, definitely 100% we will, without a second thought, right? Because they are so precious to us as well. So that's how we began on it. Our first quarter, honestly, for both businesses was okay. Like for January, February, March was fine for us. Naturally, April, now everyone's locked at home, so that really sucks in general. We had some already ongoing pieces of work, so we're just continuing to do that during this time, and we're really working now more on how can we bounce back stronger once this whole thing is over, right? We're working on, like I said, the digital course, so we can take it to the virtual space. That's going to be some testing ground for us, and a lot of our clients that usually had us conduct training offline. Now they're also exploring online options. So we're saying we can conduct the course online, on Zoom, right, virtually, and it will be the same, if not an even better experience. And a lot of them already hopped on board already. Like they're still paying us about the same fee. They're still paying us thousands to still conduct the courses. They still get that value and the result for the people that they are sending for the course. So that's one. Second thing is, like I said, like yourself, we also want to do more content. Maybe podcasts are not my thing. I don't sound so good, and I'm not so good at doing the recordings and everything. But eventually we do want to put out more similar kind of content, like interviews. We want to do more things that can help our clients and to add value to people. So that's really what we're spending a lot of our time now doing. And we have our fulfillment team are still working on fulfilling projects for clients. So that hasn't changed, and we are still busy doing that. So that's the pathway that we're kind of moving towards as of current. Pre-COVID, so because now in HighSpark, we have a team of about 8 people plus 3 interns, about 11 people. That's many people. So there was a time where it used to only be Kai-Sing and me doing every single thing. We would do payroll. Kai-Sing would be talking to the clients because people like her more than me. And, I'd be doing the website. I'd be writing the copy. I'd be doing the design. It was all just her and me for a couple of years in the beginning. Then once we started to hire, now day-to-day has become more of, there are a few key people who keep the machine going without us. And Kai-Sing and I are really stepping back, trying to take on more strategic role. But Kai-Sing still does a lot of the training because clients always highly request it. But we're working towards having some of our own in-house trainers as well.
Let's say when it takes to building a company from, let's say, 1 to 2, and at a company size of 2, and a company size of 10, a company size of 50, there are different people that are suited towards different needs. On a random note, like, are your early employees still with you in a sense whereby were the skill sets of early employees still applicable to the current stage where the company is? Or like how much has work changed in that sense? Like, I know you talked about the daily task and everything, but on a strategic role, was there any big difference in the kind of work that you guys were doing?
Not so much, actually. I do think that the way that we describe what we do has changed, because that has made it a lot easier for us to find and attract the right clients. It has also helped us raise our value, and it's also generally make work a lot more enjoyable. Like, we do feel that we're doing something that's very useful for the people that we serve. In the start, we used to always do more. We used to push more of the design aspect, right? We make it visual, we make it interesting, we make it snazzy and impressive. But that doesn't really sell as well as being able to provide insight, strategy. And that's what B2B clients, or at least our clients, are buying, right? They want us, like maybe Kai-Sing or myself or one of our consultants, to sit down with them, understand their issues from a strategic level, and give them the solutions to solve it. So that's one thing that's changed. Other than that, I'll be honest that what we actually do under the surface is still the same, right? At the start, our first employee was Yovan, who is this designer, and he's now one of our creative leads in the company. And my role has sort of evolved, so I'm going to probably change the title eventually. But he's still with us, and he's still doing an amazing job. And we now have, of course, people who are doing the copywriting, people who are really deep in the consulting and the account executive part of the things that we need to do. Again, it's also all different moving parts of an agency, which you're already quite familiar with. So I would say the challenges do evolve as you go along, because at the start, it was just Kai-Sing and me. We're just worried about whether we had enough next month to get the salary. But at the start, we weren't paying ourselves a lot anyway. We're paying ourselves like 1,000 maybe a month kind of thing, just enough to bring home, give mother a bit of money kind of thing. But as it goes along, we're just seeing, okay, hiring decisions, not easy, because you're thinking, who should I hire first? If I hire this person, it's going to be expensive. I need to continue to pay them. And in Singapore, it's not cheap to hire, right? And then you have to come to terms with, I hired this person already. I don't want to let go of them if I can, because it's a very painful thing to do, right? And I realized for Kai-Sing and myself, it's not something that we have the stomach to keep doing over and over again. So we're very selective of who we hire. We plan ahead like a year or 2 years on what kind of team structure we want to see and where the business is heading, so that we know exactly who we need. And we want to have a lean team. We don't want any extra headcount that doing what rubbish that we don't need. And that's how we've been planning. Naturally, for SMEs to hire and retain talent is not the easiest thing. right? In Singapore, especially because we have banks that are paying what you come out of school and you're getting paid like what 5,000-6,000 already. I don't even know what they're doing, you know what I mean? And it's hard for SMEs to stay competitive. I think all we really can offer is we offer the mentorship. We really invest a lot in our staff. There's retreats, we send them for courses, and we really invest our time in them. They are like our friends, and like sometimes I kid like they're a bit like our kids, and we really value their growth. And even if they did have to move somewhere else to pursue greener opportunities, I wouldn't blame them, and I would definitely just encourage them all the way. But that's the culture that we have. I mean, everyone comes in, they work hard, they play hard, and I think that's what for us so far lah. So that's the only thing that has really had to evolve.
Okay, Eugene, I just want to say thanks so much for sharing it so much. I'm sure there's a lot for me to ask, but just that I still like the kind of responsibility that you have in terms of really like having a team to pay people to meet that payroll is a very, very big one. And it's something that I have really no experience with, but I must say that it's something like big respects to it, right? To end off this podcast, right? In terms of, let's say, the worst advice that you received, right? Could you just share with us some general things that you felt that it was probably something that I shouldn't have listened to in your whole lifespan of being an entrepreneur, you would say?
Worst advice, it's going to sound really subjective, because sometimes you receive the same piece of advice as someone else, and it may have been good for them, but not so good for me. But from my personal standpoint, like at least, so this is again is in my opinion. I'm not saying that advice is bad, don't follow it. But from what was not so applicable to me was, I think someone gave me the advice that just keep doing stuff and keep failing and you'll do fine and stuff like that. From my perspective, I don't believe in doing it the wrong way a lot of times for no good reason, just so you can fail more and then you'll find the right way. I believe in doing it the right way from the beginning, right? Or at least knowing generally what's the right way, then making mistakes going towards the right direction. Because the truth is, I see it as like you're traveling, right? You're driving a car, and the end destination is supposed to be Jurong, right? But you're driving towards Tampines. And you just keep driving because they say, never mind, wrong, never mind, just keep going on it. So you drive until you realize that it's actually Jurong that you're supposed to be at, and you're already at Pasir Ris, really. Then how? You know what I mean? So you would have been going the wrong direction for so long. You would have been good at doing the wrong thing, the wrong way. And is that really something to be proud of? Is that really something that you wanted to really spend your time on? Probably not, right? So I feel that we've been very blessed and very lucky that we've been able to meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are older than us, more experienced than us, and they've been so generous with their advice. Like, we don't pay them anything, we just meet them and they look at us and we're young people and we're like a bit clueless, and they say, I want to help you, and a lot of people are like that, and it's great because then in the future when we're older, we can pay it forward also, right? So I feel that if you're unsure, find the way to be somewhat a bit more sure in terms of what step you're going to take next, right? You will never know how it will turn out. That's something that no one can tell you. But you can find out what steps would someone logically take next, right? And you can find that out from people who have done it before. And many people have done it before. You can read articles, you can watch interviews, listen to podcasts. You can just email someone that you admire, that you think they are where I want to be. I want to ask them a very specific question on a very difficult decision. If they're not really doing anything, and most people aren't doing anything now during COVID anyway, why wouldn't they reply you with an interesting response, a yes or no answer? I'm sure they would. And then that would give you validation. That would give you some clarity on what you want to do next, right? And I think that's so much more valuable than anyhowly like, I don't know if it's the right way, but let's just do it. You know what I mean? Could fail, then fail law, but you will never learn from the mistake, which is the worst thing, right? Because you could have learned from the mistake of someone else and not do it at all. That's what I feel.
Was there a period of time where you were constantly making that like same mistakes over and over again? Is there a reason why you feel so strongly about this?
Not in particular. I think sometimes it's just we do meet other entrepreneurs, and I sometimes do meet younger ones that are asking me like, hey, this thing, what should I do, kind of thing, or like, I got this advice, and should I follow it? And I just know from experience that you don't have to make a lot of the same mistakes to get to the success, because a lot of people have treaded down this road they've left all the patterns. They know exactly how to get there, right? If you ever drive from this place to that place before, Aga, you know the direction, you can tell this other guy how to get there. It's just whether you find this guy to tell you or not, right? But most people, they just anyhow drive. They think they will just somehow have serendipity and figure it out. And like the movies, you sort of are the hero and find your way. But you realize that when you watch all the movies, the hero always has this guide or mentor who tells him or her where to go and what to do. And because they've been there and done that, of course you trust this person, right? It's like Harry Potter want to go and go and fight dragon. Or you think he also go and do? No. He has some older fella or some Dumbledore or some weird mage thing that appears out of the book tell him where to go. And not to say that we need all that kind of things in our lives, but it wouldn't hurt, right? If you had some experienced person tell you where it is. Save your time. Save the person's time also. Yeah.
That's interesting. Thanks so much for sharing. 1 year from now, right, what tangible events do you want to happen at Motion Source and HiSparks to make it the best year for these two companies?
Oh my God, 1 year from now means by end of 2020.
21 April?
Well, I mean, of course, for HiSpark, we're already almost hitting our financial year goals. We're almost a 7-figure company, like almost so close, but because the COVID kind of happened, and we're kind of pushed back lah. Again, for Motion Source, I think we would want to see the team hopefully maybe grow by one extra person, probably hit a bit of a new revenue high. For HiSpark, I think the best case would be we sustain or even improve our revenue during a difficult period, and we get to a state where Kai-Sing and I don't actually have to be part of the day-to-day, right? We'll have a lot of strong team members who will take charge of different portions of the business, and we trust them 100%, right? And we really hope that they'll take charge and they'll be able to run it without us. Yeah, we'll still be there, but it's just we have that option.
Okay, Eugene, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast. I really still have a lot to learn in terms of like asking better questions, right? But thanks so much for those listeners that are interested to reach out to you. Like, where are you most active on? Instagram, LinkedIn, or I know you have a very nice personal website, so I'll be link all the websites below. But where can people reach you at?
I'm a bit of an old person, so I don't use Instagram at all. Again, I just find it a bit tedious to update. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, of course. So I think LinkedIn is one of the best ways to reach me. If you have any questions or you just want to reach out and want to be friends, and Facebook is fine. So yeah, I think Facebook or LinkedIn will be the best places. You just Google my name, or you can just search my name. You probably would find it.
Okay, thanks so much, Eugene. There's really so much content from him that I think is really useful. I've been going through it like, wow, there's really good content from it. And yeah, Eugene, thanks so much for joining on this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, JJ. And I, try not to stay at home too much after this whole thing is over.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much, man.
Okay, see you, man. Cheers.